Write fractions in lowest terms. So this is a huge application. We need to normally write all our answers in lowest terms when we are dealing with fractions. Here we have three examples: 9 over 12, 30 over 45, and 48 over 72. I will show you different methods by which we can simplify these fractions and write them in lowest terms. So I'll show you how to reduce or simplify a fraction in the lowest terms, and we will use two different methods to do so. So let me take 48 by 72. Now in this case, you see both are even numbers, right? So that means I can divide both by 2. So let me divide both by 2 and see what do we get. 48, when you divide by 2, 2 times 2 is 4 and 2 times 4 is 8. So we get 24. Let's divide 72 by 2. In that case, what do we get? 2 times 3 is 6, and then we are left with 12. That means 36. Now these are still even numbers, so we can again divide by 2. So we get 12. Half of 24 and half of 36 is 18. These are also even numbers. Let's continue with this process. So we get 2 when you divide into 12, you get 6, and half of 18 is 9. Now do they have any common factors? Yes, they have 3 as a common factor, and we can divide both by 3. So 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. So basically what we see here is 48 over 72 is equivalent to 2 over 3, right? So we write this as 2 over 3. So 48 over 72 is equal to 2 over 3. Now can you reduce it further? No, it can't be. So that is the lowest term. So lowest term is a term when numerator and denominator do not have any common factor. So that is how we get a fraction into lowest terms. And this process which I showed you here, we could call this as repeated division. Okay, let me give it a name. We'll say repeated division. Okay, so we try to find a factor which is common to both numerator and denominator, and then we start dividing them by that factor until we reach a stage when they cannot be further divided into smaller factors, right? So that is how it is. Now 30 over 45, let me do it in a different way. Now here it took us a lot of time, but this is very effective and an easy way of doing it, probably the best way of doing it. Now there are other techniques which can help us do it or understand this process of repeated division in a different way. So what we can do is, let me try that technique with this fraction 30 over 45. So in that technique what we do is we write them as factors, right? So let's make a factor tree for 30. 30, you know prime factorization? If not, you can learn from here. 30 can be written as 6 times 5 or 10 times 3, either way. So your preference. Let us say 30 you want to write as 3 times 10. Now 3 and 10 are factors of 30. When you multiply 3 and 10, you get 30. That is what we mean by factors. And 30 is product of 3 and 10. The two terms, product and factors, are related, correct? So we say 3 and 10 are factors of 30, or 30 is product of 3 and 10. Now 3 is a prime number. The only factors for 3 are 1 and 3. How about 10? Well, 10 could be written as 2 times 5. Right. So 2 times 5 is 10. So we can factorize 10 and write instead of 10 2 times 5. Now 2 and 5 are also prime numbers. They cannot be further factored. 2 has only two factors, 1 and 2. Same is the case with 5. It is prime number with two factors, 1 and 5. So we say at this stage we have got all the prime factors of 30. And you will notice that if I multiply these three, that means if I do 5 times 2 times 3, what do I get? 10 times 3, 30. So 30 could be written as product of 30. So 30 could be written as product of 5, 2 and 3, correct? So let me write 30 as product of 5, 2 and 3. So we'll write here 5 times 2 times 3 for 30, correct? Now let's do factorization of 45. So we basically wrote 30 as a product of its prime factors, right? Now let's do factorization of 45. Number 45 you can get by 5 times 9, for example, right? 5 times 9 is 45. 5 is a prime number. How about 9? 9 is 3 times 3. So we see 5 times 3 times 3 is 45, and these are the three factors of 45. So instead of 45, I can write this as product of 5 times 3 times 3. So we get, first step, all the factors, rather prime factors of our numbers. Now you see 5 and 5 is common in numerator and denominator. So these are common factors in numerator and denominator. They can be cancelled out. When we say cancelled out, we are trying to say 5 divided by 5 is 1, right? There's no point writing 1, but I'm writing here just to show you cancelling means the number is 1. Similarly, we could write 1 here also. 3 divided by 3 is 1, right? So you could write 1 both places, okay? Now what do we get? We get 1 times 2 times 1 in the numerator, and we get 1 times 3 in the denominator. And therefore, we can write 30 over 45 as 2 divided by 3. Do you see that? So we say the ratio or the fraction 30 over 45 is equivalent to 2 over 3. Do you get the point? So that is how we can write fractions in lowest terms. So this method is using prime factorization, right? So we have method number 2, using prime factors. Correct? So these are two methods which could be applied to write fractions in lowest terms. Now as an exercise, what you can do is you can adopt either of the two methods to reduce 9 over 12 into its lowest terms. Okay? Which one will you prefer? Now when the numbers are small, there is no point in going for prime factorization. Prime factorization is a good method for big numbers, right? For smaller numbers, you can do it by inspection. So I'll call that as my third technique. And third technique will be by inspection, or you can say trial. So trial and error, right? Trial and error, right? So you can just try out some numbers. For example, 3 goes into 9. Is 3 a factor of 12? Ask that question. Yes, 3 times 4. Fine. Let me divide this by 3. So I get 3 here. And when I divide this by 3, I get 4. And therefore, my answer is 3 over 4. This is extremely helpful. So you can just try out some numbers, right? Looking at a number, you get an idea that, well, for this, 4 is a factor. Let's try it out, right? So if you try, most of the time it works. If it doesn't work, try the next number, right? So that is a very effective way of writing fractions in the lowest terms. So when you practice doing this, then you get to this stage for sure. So try out few questions and then see if you could straight away do without employing any other method, just by intuition, right? So I'll give you some numbers here, try them out. Let's say 36 divided by 24. Now this number should be written into lowest terms. You can adopt any technique you want. Let me give you another, which is 5's multiple is 15, and then I'm giving you a number here which is also a multiple of 5, and let it be 35, right? So you can cross out 5's and then figure out how you can write these fractions in lowest terms. I hope you understand the process, and you also understand that simplifying fractions is extremely important, and there are easy ways of doing it. Thank you and all the best.